Elizabeth Nunez, a Trinidadian-American author, presents a reimagined version of William Shakespeare's The Tempest in her novel Prospero's Daughter, 2006. The story unfolds in a leper colony situated near the Caribbean island of Trinidad, where the action of the original play is transplanted. The protagonist, 15-year-old English girl Virginia, finds herself entangled in a distressing situation when her father falsely accuses the boy she loves, who is of mixed-race heritage, of rape. Set in the 1940s, the narrative also introduces Dr. Peter Gardiner, an English physician whose character draws loose inspiration from Shakespeare's Prospero. Driven by a controversial and ambitious motive, Gardiner engages in intricate experiments on human cadavers with the aim of cultivating organs and body parts in a laboratory. Similar to Prospero, he is deceived and deprived of his rightful position. In this case, British medical authorities discover the grotesque nature of his experiments, breaching his heavily guarded lab during the night. Consequently, Gardiner is exiled alongside his infant daughter, Virginia, as they are escorted onto a ship destined for the Americas. During their voyage, Virginia experiences severe seasickness, leading many to believe she will not survive. However, Gardiner perceives her survival as an act of sheer willpower, despite her tender age. Their journey takes a tumultuous turn as the ship becomes engulfed in a violent storm, ultimately causing Gardiner and Virginia to wash up on Chachacare, an island leper colony situated off the coast of Trinidad in the Caribbean Sea. On this island, Gardiner encounters Carlos, a recently orphaned child of mixed-race heritage, whose parents perished in the same tempest that wrecked the ship carrying Gardiner and Virginia. Gardiner cunningly integrates himself into Carlos's household, forming a bond with Lucina, the family servant, and eventually moving in with them. Lucina and her daughter, Ariana, also share the home. As Virginia matures, she becomes acutely aware of her father's oppressive and racist behavior. Driven by his white supremacist beliefs, Gardiner exhibits a colonialist and imperialistic attitude towards the native inhabitants of Chachacare. In defiance of her father's bigotry and driven by her inherent goodness, Virginia forges a deep friendship with Carlos. Their connection deepens as they enter their teenage years and develops into a budding romance. Unsurprisingly, Dr. Gardiner is incensed by the idea of Carlos being involved with Virginia romantically. His disgust at the thought of Carlos touching his daughter only intensifies his rage. Compounding matters is Dr. Gardiner's sick obsession with taking his own daughter's virginity. Gratefully, Dr. Gardiner holds himself back from acting on this incestuous fantasy. Unfortunately, he takes out this sexual aggression by raping Ariana instead. Each night, Lucina is forced to listen through the walls as Dr. Gardiner rapes her daughter. Owing to her lower social status as a Trinidadian, Lucina feels powerless to call the authorities or otherwise stop the attacks. After Virginia and Carlos finally make love, a livid Dr. Gardiner summons Inspector Mumsford, an investigator called in from England. Dr. Gardiner wants Mumsford to find, or manufacture, evidence that substantiates the false allegation that Carlos raped Virginia. Instead, Mumsford quickly discovers that Dr. Gardiner is the rapist and Ariana is the victim. However, as conflicted and prejudiced as Dr. Gardiner, Inspector Mumsford finds himself torn about whether to press charges against his fellow colonialist and uphold the ideals of white brotherhood. The moral quandary weighs heavily on Mumsford, pushing him to the brink of contemplating suicide as he sees no apparent resolution to the case. Eventually, Mumsford departs from Chachacare without filing charges against either Dr. Gardiner or Carlos. Foiled in his attempts to have Carlos imprisoned, Dr. Gardiner devises a new scheme to keep Virginia and Carlos apart. He manipulates the situation by promising Virginia's hand in marriage to a wealthy planter in the region. Determined not to be forced into a union with anyone other than Carlos, Virginia and Carlos make the decision to escape to a distant town. There, they elope, build a life together, have children, and enjoy a long and blissful existence, free from the clutches of the wicked Dr. Gardiner. By portraying the seemingly eccentric Prospero as the embodiment of evil in the character of Dr. Gardiner, the author offers a captivating interpretation of the toxic blend of sexism and racism that underlies one of literature's renowned control freaks. Departing from the mischievous trickster portrayal, Prospero is reimagined through this lens as a wicked manipulator who gaslights women and people of color. The novel Prospero's Daughter has garnered high praise, with Kirkus reviews describing it as simply wonderful. I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave a like if you did and be sure to subscribe. Thank you.